Eskom's troubles are more than just financial. The technical problems bedeviling the company have also contributed to the power utility's inability to keep the lights on. Last week, Pravin Gordhan met with all the engineering bodies to get their assistance. Joining us in the studio now is the CEO of the South African Institute of Electrical Engineers, Mr. Sixelo Xulu. Mr. Xulu, good evening, good morning rather. Welcome to the program. If you could just, in layman's terms, explain to the public what is the problems from an engineering point at Eskom that prevents us from getting consistent electricity and having a secure electricity supply.
No, thanks for the opportunity, Karima and Bruce. Just to answer you directly, I think if you look at the load shedding that we experienced about 2 weeks ago, of which Eskom called for stage 4, which requires about 4,000 megawatts to be shared in the system. So basically, that was as a result of the shortage of the generation as a result of the demand that had picked up. So meaning that there are customers, they require more than what Eskom can be able to generate. So now let's just take a step back. If you look at the Eskom installed capacity, meaning from the generation point of view, they actually have about 40,000 megawatts that is installed. And at that point, when they called for the stage 4 load shedding, they are basically generating or peaking at about 27,000 megawatts. So meaning that they're not exhausted their full installed capacity, but they were already constrained. So what does that mean then, Karima, in layman, just to answer your question? It means then that the balance, which is just over 10,000 megawatts, was locked up either in maintenance, which was planned, the plant that had not been brought back into service, or it was actually locked up in, as we had, they actually lost all of a sudden about 6 sort of like units additional. So that basically kind of like collapsed then the system in the way, and therefore for them to save that, they had to then ask for the 4,000 megawatts. So I think that's in a nutshell.
In your experience, typically, when you say you lose a unit unexpectedly, what's happened?
A lot of things can happen. People have spoken.
What would be the top 3 things that could go wrong?
You know, the most, I think, challenging thing of which we discussed, with the minister, for instance, is the tubes. You know, within the generation, station, they've got obviously the tubes that normally fail from time to time, and those tubes obviously result in the power station obviously failing. So that's just one of them. But in other cases, for instance, you might find that they've taken the plant out of service, and therefore they need to buy a certain part, as an example. But there's a lead time in actually getting that particular part. So therefore, they must follow a particular procurement process for them to get that part in, so that they can assemble the plant, get it back into service. The tubes I'm referring to are boilers for boiler tubes. That's basically what I'm referring to. So those are some of the typical problems that they will face, I think, technically.
And is it and do these faults occur because nobody knows that the tubes are going to blow, or
without getting too technical, I think, Peter, there's a series of reasons why they might fail. It's just how they're operated sometimes, probably the lack of maintenance, but also we know that Eskom, because of the pressure that they've been under, they've kind of like pushed, I think, the boundaries in terms of maintenance, bringing plant into maintenance, and you find that that as a result then will result in some, unplanned sort of like failures within the system.
Can it be fixed?
Yes, certainly can be fixed. I think.
And let's ask the how. How is it going to be fixed? Because most people ordinarily just want to know, are the lights going to be on, and are they going to stay on? So you met with the minister, you've identified what the issues are from a technical point of view. How are you going to fix them? The minister said that you guys are all coming in and doing national duty. Tell us what exactly you're going to do.
No, certainly. I think maybe I wouldn't want to jump the gun, and what we've done, I think, for now is that we've actually done our diagnosis in terms of the issues as we see them, I think, within Eskom, but also as engineering fraternity. I mean, the guys that really came to the meeting, I mean, they were diverse. We had guys from mechanical, civils, for instance, electrical. We had IEEE. We also had NSPE there, part of the team that came through. So we did a diagnosis, and I was then tasked by the minister to be able to submit that report. We have submitted the report. Maybe just in a nutshell, to get into how some of these things can actually be fixed, which I think is very important. You can actually have a very good plan, technical plan, to say this is the maintenance that needs to be done. And these are the things that obviously, technically, that needs to be done. But if you don't resource that particular plan, obviously that will be in vain. So it means you can't be able to execute the plan. But if you also don't take the people along within Eskom to make sure that they're actually party to the solution, they don't fold their arms, again, that plan will actually go into the drain. So what we've then given back to the minister, of which is obviously looking at it and taking other submissions as well, is that we've said we need to have a coherent plan that talks to the maintenance program to be able to then make sure that we increase the availability from the 27,000 megawatts, hopefully to be close to that 40,000 that is installed. But we know that is there. But secondly, what we've done, we've then said that when we look at the restructuring point of view that has been announced by the president, it's important that we've got a 10 to 15-year view as to how this is going to unfold, so that we alleviate fears that talks to at least the issues of job losses, for instance, privatization, etc. We're saying if we have that 10 to 15-year view, that actually might assist in terms of making sure that even organized labor, they actually party to that. I'll just give an example, Karima. If you look at the electricity supply industry, I'm not talking about Eskom alone, the ESI, electricity supply industry within the country, it's on a death spiral. So something has to be done. And it happens then that whatever that needs to be done is so structural that you need to be able to start looking at the structural issues, including the restructuring, for instance. I'll give you an example. If you look at what is currently happening, not only Eskom is under this financial strain, but also municipalities in the country.
Yes.
And it's because of all these technologies that have come into the space, and therefore there's a loss of revenue, the volumes are going down, people are moving off the grid, for instance. So therefore we need to start looking at the ESI holistically, and this is the point we made to the minister as well, and saying that, so for us to be able to have a sustainable restructuring, we should not only look at Eskom. Yes, Eskom is a starting point, but let's look at the entire electricity supply industry. Meaning then that if we take the municipalities and say, okay, what needs to be done there? And by the way, Karima, municipalities are the biggest customer to Eskom, and they're currently struggling. You know that they're not paying. The worst defaulters. So it means that it impacts on the Eskom financial status at the end of the day. And the second group is the intensive energy user group, which is obviously then the second. So therefore, it's important when you look at the restructuring, it's holistic. And why municipalities are struggling as well is because of the skill set that are there. So you might find that because of Eskom as a giant, you find that skills migrated to Eskom. So therefore, there's not going to be necessary job losses with the restructuring. But what's going to happen is that you're going to get a balance now where you've got people within Eskom, but also some others can be displaced to the municipalities, so you've got better skill set there, they're able to recover some of the income, etc. So in a nutshell, I think that's from the restructuring point of view.
That's quite a coherent plan. Peter?
I like that answer. The Kusile, Medupi and Kusile, how did they go wrong? Why are they not being built properly? It's a six-pack. Eskom has built six-packs all its life. It's straight up and down stuff.
No, I think, Peter, there are merit of issues. I think based on the discussion we had at the meeting, there were very good points that came out of that. I think firstly started with the contracting within the Medupi and Kusile. So obviously it was supposed to be a 10-key type project, but in a way you find that then it was a mix where Eskom didn't say, please just go and build this thing, and this is the budget, and this is what we're actually looking for, and come back and give us the key so that we can then start the generation. So it was kind of like a mix. And therefore, you can imagine that the responsibility get blurry in some of the cases if Eskom doing its own internal project management, and then also in some of the cases you find that guarantees, they fall away, etc. So it's a merit of issues starting from the contracting.
Does it matter? Does it help anybody now to go and find out who did what? Because my understanding is these contractors arrived at Medupi. There was no roads, there was no housing for workers. They had to do.
I think the finger pointing is not going to help now. That's why we've come on board and we're saying, you know what? We know that there's been a couple of task teams that have been set up. Can we then come up with a coherent plan that looks at the build program like Medupi and Kusile? How best do we then salvage that? And if you look at the South African Institute of Electrical Engineers, for instance, we've got as part of our members, some of the same sort of members that are experienced, but also they're actually from the manufacturing point of view, as an example. So therefore, they can then assist from that point of view to say what are the issues. But also, some have actually operated power stations, as an example. So therefore, they're part of the team that we bring on board, just to expedite the process.
So you're saying, again, we can fix this thing?
No, it can be fixed.
Technically, no problem.
It can be fixed, but you cannot have a good plan that is not resourced and where you can't take people along with. It's very important because that human element becomes important.
Absolutely.
So therefore, we need to take Eskom along.
We have to end on this. We will, of course, check in with you on the progress ahead. Thank you so very much, Sixelo Xulu from the Engineering Institution. We hope that you have all the success that we need with Eskom still ahead on the fix. We are going to be speaking with the chairperson of Parliament's Portfolio Committee on why they are taking so long to get an SABC board together that can actually correct.